Great. Okay, here we go. Welcome everybody again. It's great to see everybody's faces. So why don't we go around and introduce yourselves, and then if there's anything particular that you'd like to talk about today, I'll be taking notes, and then we'll come back. So I'm Susan Walker, formerly from the University of Minnesota, and now of the universe. And I will pass it over to Julie Schiffer.
Hi, I'm Julie. I'm parent educator in Owatonna, and I don't have anything in particular today. How about Mary Kay?
I'm Mary Kay Ashley. I work in District 191, Burnsville, Egan, Savage. I was reflecting when I saw Greta's tag, because I worked in Cambridge Isanti one year, and that having three transposed numbers was funny to me. So let me see. I'm a parent educator. We have a parent educator who has just left us, and so we are trying to combine classes again. And of course, the people who work on Saturdays are supposed to teach two at the same time. So, you know, it's okay. Yeah, I think that we're combining it this Saturday, and we're going to see what happens. But it's really interesting to see what happens when we have changes. And I try to be flexible. But sometimes it's just like, how flexible can y'all be? So we have a father's class that is going for the first time in about a year and a half. And I'm delighted with it. And I was especially surprised and delighted when one of the dads started a line of questioning last week about, what is it your wives do for self-time, because I think my wife needs more, and I want to give her some ideas. And they had a thoughtful, supportive conversation about this, and I just mostly sat there feeling wonderful, like I had done something to make that happen, but I didn't. Oh yeah, I get to pick someone. Hey Sarah, how about you next? Sarah Fritsch next.
Man, I already talked about how wonderful our overalls are. I'm Sarah Fritsch. I am over here in Big Lake, Minnesota. Things that are happening. We're doing Super Saturday training this weekend. So we try to celebrate our childcare providers in Sherburne County, because we don't have any in Sherburne County. And so the ones that we have left, we try to like really get excited about. So we're doing a like little breakfast, and they get to come and get 4 hours of continuing ed hours. And so that's something that's coming up that we're doing this weekend. I will pass it to Christy. Christy, I love you. I haven't seen you in so long.
Hi, thank you. I'm Christy Hansen. I'm a parent educator, but also an administrator in Rosemount, Apple Valley, Egan. And I'm really looking forward to hearing your voices. Sometimes I listen while I'm taking a walk to the recordings, and I always learn something wonderful from this group. So I will pass it to, let's see, how about Greta?
I'm Greta, and I am a parent educator in Cambridge Isanti, which Mary Kay already alluded to. And when I see you, Mary Kay, I think about Burnsville, and I'm thinking about the loss and the tragedy there. My daughter was best friends with Paul and his wife, Cindy. They grew up K-12 together here in Cambridge. And so I don't know if I'll get through it, but yeah, so an amazing, I know one of the police officers, and he was an amazing individual. And yeah, so grieving with the community there as they are walking through this together, and as we have ceremonies tomorrow and Sunday to gather together. So yeah, I'm thinking about that. And then the next thing I think I see Sarah Fritsch here, and Sarah, you and I got together. First time was when we did a peeps in a Jeep because Steve Friendland, who's coming to Menafee, which is just crazy to me. He's a friend of mine who did that peeps in a Jeep thing in a TED Talk. That's it, TED Talk. And so you guys will all meet him. He's the reason for peeps at one point in time early on. So yeah, it's kind of exciting. Anyway, that's just a little walk down heartfelt road a little bit right here, right now. Sorry about that. So, Nancy, how about your turn?
Hello, I'm Nancy Trahey. I work for Albany School District as a home visitor and parent educator. And I'm going to call on, well, I'm going to call on Katie because I need to apologize to her for missing a meeting yesterday afternoon. Katie, your turn.
You're okay. I know how it can go when you're into something and it's all of a sudden, what time is it? So no worries, Nancy. Hi, I'm Katie from Jordan. I am the parent educator here. And I'm sorry, I got on a little bit late, so I'm not exactly sure what we're doing, but I will say that I got approval today to attend Menafee with my early childhood teacher, and it'll be her first time. So I'm really excited. So let's see. I'm just going to pick out a couple names, and if you already went, I'm sorry. Julie, have you gone? Okay. Jennifer?
Hi, I'm Jennifer. I'm parent educator in Minnetonka. And just happy to be here and happy it's Friday. And yeah, same. I'm not sure who we haven't heard from. Sarah Hanson. We heard from you yet. Okay, there we go.
Thanks, Jennifer. I'm a parent educator in Northeastern Minnesota. I'm in Ely, Babbitt, and Tower, so St. Louis County Schools and the Ely District. And I don't have a important topic to talk about today. I will say I had so much fun in the cities last weekend cheering on the skiers. So I'll just say that. So that was an amazing weekend. And I'm passing it to, is Ellen available?
Hi, I'm here. I'm just in the car heading home. I'm Ellen, parent educator in Northfield, and I do not have anything pressing. And I can't see, so someone's going to have to pass off for me and go.
Sandy.
Hi, I'm Sandy Salter. I'm the parent educator and home visitor and outreach person in Fairmont, Minnesota. I don't have anything pressing to talk about, but just want to give a shout out to Ellen and thank her for something she shared not too long ago that has helped me try to reduce some of my prep time. So thanks. It's really nice when people like collaborate and help, and I'm able to use like a sheet that she had done to just kind of help keep me organized as to what I had talked about, any notes about what I need to revisit. And it just has helped me to cut down on some of my time as I'm trying to just set more limitations than I have in the past. So, yeah. And I think
Sandy, I'm so happy. What did I share with you though? I don't remember.
It was that Google sheet that you use, like it has the week and what topic you're going to talk about.
We mentioned it last week again, Ellen, remember? Yeah.
Okay, that's right. Okay. Because I send out a lot of fun things. I just don't remember what fun thing I sent out this time.
Right. And it's so appreciated.
Uh-oh, did something happen? Or everybody just all of a sudden went quiet?
I think, did everybody introduce themselves?
I think so.
I think everybody's gone.
I think we're good.
Okay, all right, good. Also, because I was looking, I had that link from Ellen's worksheet that she posted last week, and I went and I thought I still had it as an open tab, and I was going to share that again.
Well, I can share it. I'm 5 minutes from home, so I can share it again,
okay, good.
unless somebody else has it. So, yeah.
Great. Well, gosh, guys, nobody has any. This has been a great meeting. So we'll see you again next week. No, I'm kidding. All
Well, I
right.
can say one thing. We just recently got on the master contract for our district, and I got the information about how that's going to make a difference for me. And I'm very pleased. So I'll just say that. It was a
Yay!
very good thing.
It's about time.
Yeah, it is. Our district just voted on the teacher contract and passed it. So now there's less tension around, you know.
Good.
Here in Jordan, before preschool teachers and we were put on the contract, but there's so many carve outs and we are still hourly. We are still not salary. So it's not good. We thought this was going to be the year of the change, and it's just, sorry, Julie, I'm happy for you. I don't mean to bring you down, but I don't know what to do. It's tough.
I was concerned that was the direction ours would go to, but it didn't, and I feel for you.
Oh, well, I'm happy for you. That's great.
Katie, I think even though I'm on the master contract as well, I think our situation is similar to yours. And I think that's why I've been having some of the problems I've been having this year, particularly, although it's been that way for years before this, but I'd be curious to know if it's similar. So we should talk sometime.
So for
Yes,
the
I
sake
would
of
love to.
anybody, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm good.
Oh, I was just gonna say, so for the sake of, since we usually get about 40 or 50 people viewing our conversations, and I think they're, around the state. Would anybody just like to do a very brief summary of the master contract? Because from our conversations in the past, and obviously even from this conversation, not every district is on it. And then there's still, and as I think Katie was saying, also negotiations and things like that. So if we could do two quick things. One is welcome Laura. And Laura, where are you from?
I am from Osseo Area Schools.
Welcome. And do you have anything that you would like us to talk about today?
No, thank you. I will listen today. You've been very helpful this month already.
And then the second thing, if somebody would just like to give a very brief description of what you mean by quote unquote master contract, and how how that affects, or if it's not in place, how it maybe negatively affects or positively affects, I guess, parenting educators.
Well, I'm not an expert, but Burnsville Egan Savage is still in negotiations about that. And they're trying to make the jump not only to add the licensed DCFE teachers and ABE teachers, but also all the preschool teachers in the district who are teaching voluntary pre-K. And if I remember correctly, our addendum has a cap at 20 years. You know how if you work a certain number of years, you get more each year. Well, a longevity boost. And my remembrance is that the cap for ECFE, for our ECFE ABE addendum is 20 years. So if they finish this negotiation, they have to retro pay anyone who would get a raise out of that in any way, shape, or form to July 1. And because I've been working for the district about 35 years, and I believe the teacher contract cap is a little higher in terms of number of years, it has the potential to be a lovely little summer surprise. So we'll see what happens.
So a quick, when you were asking about master contracts, so our teachers, K-12, typically have a contract that they negotiate with the union. And in that contract, it has it has the pay scale, it has the insurance, it has days off, and it's all typically done under a salary kind of number, right? In a grid of sorts, depending upon what your district, how your district does it. It might be years experience and degrees. So that's kind of does that give enough, everybody? Does that kind of give enough of what the master contract is? I mean, those of you who know more than I do, am I missing anything? Does that answer your question, Susan?
Yeah, and so at issue with the parenting educators is that traditionally they have not been included because it's K-12.
Right. So typically, districts will have something alongside it. Sometimes it's under community ed. Some districts go that direction and go that way. Some are on the contract. We've been on the contract for a long time, but we are under a different pay scale. So ABE and ECFE have been a different pay scale. Our pay scale is Bachelor of Arts or Master's and 10 years. And that's our grid. Boom. That's it. 10 years, Master's or BA. And that was negotiated like 10 years ago, 12 years ago, that was the Master's was added to it. Otherwise, it was always a BA, nothing else. And so this year, because of the legislature, they said we need to bring people on, and we are focusing really a lot on preschool. So in Cambridge ISANI, they took preschool out of the community ed, or it's like terms and conditions, I believe is the contract, and they brought them over to the teachers on a different pay scale, which is BA only, and it is 5 years. So it just depends. And then certain things are cut out, some things aren't, and it's hourly, even though some ECFE is salary. Just depends on how many hours you have. So that's where we're at, but that I hopefully gives some more information to those who are watching or listening.
Wow.
I really hope that these other school districts see what Owatonna has done, because they have done it right. They've really stood up for, and it wasn't just ECFE, it was ABE and preschool teachers as well. Just got added to the contract.
Is it hourly?
No, we are salaried. We are salaried. And wow. I love that. I'm really happy about that.
So how do they do that? Are you all full-time then?
I am not. I am 0.72.
Okay, so that's how they do it. They
Yep.
give a specific number. Christy,
Yep.
You're kind of shaking your head. Is that right? They give a specific 0.7, 0.5. They can like arrange it that way from a salaried number.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And see, I have an FTE of 0.53, but I'm still hourly. But I am paid according to the other teachers in the district, K-12. So I do move up. Each year I get a raise. And if I were to get more credits, I'm on step and lane. So it's wild how different it is.
Yeah. And I think, Ellen, we're a similar concept. I mean, it's been over 20 years since our union went to bat for all of us, and we are all on the master contract. And it is calculated, like Julie was saying. By the way, we've got a full-time position open, early childhood coordinator in our district. So, so you could benefit from this maybe if you wanted to come up and work for our district. So for example, I have so many classes, my prep time, let's say I'm working half-time, if I'm working half of what a full-time teacher would be working, then I get half of the prep, for example, that kind of thing. So and the advantage to me to that all being calculated, on percentage and by the hour is if they assign me an extra class or extra whatever, I'm paid my teacher wage. You know what I mean? It's not just, you're salaried. And so that's just a part of being salaried. I'm compensated then for those additional hours. So we're fortunate. We've been on it for a long time.
This may sound really silly, but I'm actually very happy that I'm not doing timesheets anymore, just for the fact that I was constantly telling lies on my timesheets. Some weeks I'd have a lot to do, some weeks I wouldn't have as much, but I have, I had to make it fit. So I always felt like that just did not make any sense, and I should just do my job and get paid for it. And so now that's what it is.
So in Jordan, so my position is a little unique because I think I do about 3/4 of my time as the administrative assistant for our program, and about 1/4 of it teaching. I get paid for 9 hours a week for teaching, but I am totally standing with these gals because I've been here for many years, and it's been, such a frustrating thing, to just keep being told, it's coming, hang in there. And, but because I do get paid holidays, I do get things as an administrative assistant, but like our hourly preschool teachers don't get paid holidays. Things that, the custodians and things get as hourly employees. So it's upsetting, but, the problem is a lot of the districts around here that are this kind of a similar size to us are also not on the contract. So we don't have a lot of, well, they're doing it. Owatonna, I think you're probably quite a bit bigger than we are, Julie. So yeah, that's been a tough thing too. But I don't know. I'm nervous. I don't want to say too much with this being recorded, but yeah, it's definitely tough. Hard to keep good teachers.
Katie, I can stop the recording and we can
Oh,
pause it if you need.
okay, maybe for just a second.
Sure. Yep. There. Okay. And we're back. So what I'm curious about, I always think about new educators that come into positions and the kinds of things that are in place that we kind of take for granted. I mean, and I'm no different, right? All the jobs that I've started and you just sort of inherit what is there or what's not there. And yet in the work that we do as women, and especially women who work in community education and work with families, and we're not in sort of the things that our society, like has value for, which is money. So when I look at discrepancies of people who are in marketing or people who are in business or people who are in economics or things like that, compared to people who work with families, right? It's very, very different. And, and so usually that kind of, and then also, in ECFE and parenting educators and early childhood educators, who are licensed teachers. And again, raw for Minnesota because, right. And, but still you come into it, and if there's a home visiting program, somebody had to start that program. Somebody had to advocate, to say, we could be doing this, or the legislation says that we are supposed to be doing this and we're not doing this, right? Or other people are paid this. I'm a licensed teacher too, or we need a better ESL program or whatever it is. And so when you come in, like those things are already in existence. And yet somewhere along the line, there was somebody, usually a woman, mostly because it's the majority of our field, but also who has advocated and has gone to a union or has gone to their boss or has gone to the superintendent or has, lobbied it to MDE or something like that to affect change. So I'm just curious if any of you have experience, especially, people who've been in the field for a long time, if you have, seen that kind of advocacy and the change that it's created.
Can you pause the recording again, Susan? I'm sorry.
Sure. Absolutely. All right. Again. So we have been sharing some personal experiences. So we paused the recording out of respect. A question did come up about data that is gathered related to children's learning and progress, and especially longevity and impact from early childhood services on kids long term. And so I'm just going to return back to the group to see, Laura, if you want to rephrase your question, so in case I didn't get it correctly, but just so that the whole group has a chance to respond.
I guess the question is in relation to kind of promoting our program so that we are on contract and we're seen as a valuable part of the whole child experience of education. Are there districts that track data and use data from early childhood on to look at graduation rates, behavior interventions, and just general outcomes going back to early childhood? The silence is the answer. Okay. My PhD program.
But I think what would be easier to track immediately is the number of referrals that come from ECFE and how many kids get into early intervention before kindergarten and how they are ready for kindergarten. And that is something that I wish somebody, and it's too big a piece for Manafi to bite off, but it's too bad the state wasn't doing this data for years. And now that the state is pushing us to this under this children, youth, and families, the state couldn't get it together. So what makes this children, youth, and families department, you know what I mean? So I just feel like if anything was going to happen, it would have to be us doing that data collection. And who has time?
Well, okay, so, okay, this is, as a data person, absolutely. This is a state issue, Laura. I mean, it's something that those kind of numbers, I've sat through state level reports on kids' academic achievement, and, you know, have it sliced and diced by race and demography and factors and things like that. And it's all around where additional monies should go and things like that. And it's horrible. I mean, horrible in the sense that traditionally early childhood was not included in that. It would start sort of at kindergarten or whatever. You know, even in my time in Minnesota, which is only, you know, since 2007, I don't think it was until about maybe 2012 that children in early childhood were even tracked, right? That there were numbers that were given when kids signed up in early childhood services that enabled them, like any of that data. So, you know, kid 547B, who might be 2 years old in ECFE, would get an indicator number that you then could track that kid when they're in 3rd grade, and then again in 6th grade, and then on up, you know. And so one is just the delay in even, you know, that happening. And that's sort of my understanding. Avisa, what's her last name? Whiteman, is that it? She was, if she's still there, I mean, she was like the major data person. So she would be, and Mike would be good current. So I say this publicly, but again, my own knowledge is relatively limited. But my take on it is a state issue. It is something that the State Department of Education should be doing, because unfortunately, when it comes from an individual district, it's unless it's a district related policy, it's very easy to dismiss district level data, right, on a statewide basis when budget is being allocated, because it's like, oh, well, that's happening in Edina. Oh, that's happening in Apple Valley. That's not statewide. That doesn't include kids on Native American reservations, right? That doesn't include people in the Iron Range. And so it's easy to dismiss that, again, unless it's going to be a school district based, you know, kind of thing. Related to that is the great challenge of, because the thing about K-12 services is once a kid joins school, right, then they're in school 5 days a week, whatever, how many hours a day, right? And that's like a consistent consistent intervention in a way, right? And so you can say, so this child or this kid in first grade who has been getting our services, you know, like that's a consistent intervention. And so we can see then tracking that up to graduation. And so therefore, if we're looking at this kind of work equals that kind of outcome. The problem a lot of times with early childhood is that services are very mixed. And so it could be a child who only comes in for ECFE. It could be a child who comes in for ECFE plus ECSE. It could be a child who doesn't start until they're 3. It could be a child who doesn't start until they're in pre-K, you know, and maybe also, you know, the family went to ECFE when the child was 2, and then there's a 2-year gap, right? So Jennifer knows this stuff. She's a data person too from the past, right? And so then the data becomes messy and it becomes really hard for number crunchers to be able to say, then this is the data that we have from early childhood, and ergo, then this is how we can attach that to graduation rates. It's not saying it can't be done at all, right? It can be done. People do it. And there are other states who have done amazing things with like Head Start data and early childhood data and that sort of thing. It's just that there has to be that sort of public will and interest. And then my final point is just Ellen's point about this bifurcation of services. And I know I've mentioned this in the past. When I was at the university and when I was in Maryland, their state stuff, I worked a lot in childcare and childcare policy. And then childcare services was under, like, it was sort of a family thing, right? And so any family services, food stamps, WIC, you know, childcare subsidies, things like that, that was all under one umbrella. It was not part of education. And so the slight concern I have as well is, while it can be very well thought to move all family services, I mean, there's wisdom behind all of this stuff, so I'm not knocking it completely. But to Ellen's point, it will be very hard to do the education piece when you move a bunch of programs, you know, administratively and data-wise out of education. I mean, if it's hard enough for agencies, right? So hopefully, if there is some sort of statewide children, youth, and families thing, there will be some representation on education data.
Yeah, because I'm sorry, I don't care if I'm recorded. The state has sucked. And I've said it over and over again. The state has sucked, giving us attention, making sure we're paid well enough, making sure our program is well done or well, like, out there. They just suck. And you would think that to be so unique to Minnesota, you would think they would flaunt us all over the place, and they don't. And I don't have, I'm usually pretty optimistic, but I do not have high hopes for this new department. I just don't. Because the state couldn't do it. What makes this department? I mean, whatever. All right, I'll just stop now. I'm getting mad.
Yeah,
but
so it's hard.
Back to my thought, like, we could do this as a PLC goal, right? Couldn't we? Like, could we try to follow kids and see if they're ready for kindergarten? What does their, you know, what are their readiness? What does their, you know, all the tools that they use to make sure kids are ready for kindergarten? I know, like Haggerty and all that stuff. They use that in our preschool, but you know, could we somehow go to our districts and say, hey, we have a really great idea for a PLC goal. And our goal is that every kid in ECFE, or, you know, 90% of kids who participate in ECFE are ready for kindergarten. I don't know, just an idea. I mean, we could do it, but it would have to be ourselves. I know we don't really have time for that, but PLC could give you that time. The problem is they're pretty picky about PLC groups and who you're with and blah, blah, blah. So just a thought.
Yeah, I do know, you know, before I came in, like Betty Cook, when Betty was at the Department of Ed, there is a study that was done where they tracked kids in ECFE Again, somehow either the state allocated money, I think this was either before Palendi or whatever, there's a state allocation, or maybe they got a grant from someone, but somehow, and it wasn't statewide, it was like, there was like regional, Christy, Nancy, I mean, you guys have been around, so you might have remembered this, but they collected some data on children in ECFE and receiving early childhood services in school districts, and then tracked them at third grade. And I think that they were looking at maybe reading scores or something, but they had some evidence that going to ECFE made a difference. Like that children who attended ECFE were, Chrissy, do you remember this? It was like the kids who went to ECFE, somehow it wasn't just reading, but that they attended school more, their families were more engaged in school. There were a few indicators that they had.
I don't remember that specifically. Well, I mean, the 2012 study that was done through the U, our district participated in that and got good data from that. But when I started in 2000 in this district in 2008, MELD, does anybody remember MELD? Okay, so MELD was doing a family literacy study, and our family literacy program was in that, and we tracked literacy habits within families and did some observations of parents that was really narrow skills that we saw them using. And I thought that was, they trained me on, being involved in that study. And I thought, well, that's great. It was on a grant, but like you say, it was, not statewide, not longitudinal, not, we've tried in our district for years to collect really great data. And I think we have really great data, but it feels like no matter what you do, it gets dismissed somehow, So, I mean, I'd be interested and someone said, I'm worried the state will micromanage us. Well, so if you get measured, then you have to do it this way, and you have to, I do worry a little bit about that too, but I enjoy gathering data that gives our staff a feeling of empowerment that they can teach, and that parents and children are walking away with something, even if they come once a week. And I think that's worth figuring out what data to collect.
Yeah, I mean, I think a middle level thing, one thing that could be done, any of you from the state of Minnesota who's listening to this recording, and this is for you, would be, rather than, because it's a huge project, and especially with transition, it's not going to happen anytime soon. But would be to canvass the districts to find out what kind of data is being collected at the district level. Right. And you could have an amalgam of reports. You could say this isn't consistent data. What's being collected in Egan is different than what's collected in Burnsville. Nevertheless, right, this is there, and people will blow holes in that, right? I know. Nevertheless, you can say over here, like in this school district, there is this data, and this is what they're showing. In this school district, that's what they're collecting, right? And that's what they're showing, and have somebody who understands the big scheme of things be able to say, and then ergo, this is what we're seeing. This is what we're seeing from these districts about, kids reading, or parents being involved in school, or children's development, or, or especially looking at particular populations or things like that. So, I mean, it's a middle ground thing that to me is unfortunate, because a lot of times district level stuff is really, really good, and it doesn't go any farther than within that school district, and maybe to a board of or the school board, and then possibly shelved in somebody's file drawer, or well, that dated me, or their hard drive, right? And and then and nobody ever sees it. And so, that would be something I would do. We could also do that at Menafee, right? Is have districts display their data, their report, their evidence of the great things, that they're doing. And because the other thing is that, you know, districts are different, families are different, kids are different from place to place. And so we also should honor that uniqueness of location, you know, and that would be also a way of showcasing it. So anyway, I had another thought, but I'll stop.
Well, and the kids, when you talked about 2007, if we had started collecting data in 2007, those kids are in high school now. Think about what we would have if we had, you know, I mean, I think about that anecdotally. I know a young man who, as a 2.5-year-old, the early childhood educator and I kept looking at him and saying, I don't know, do you think autism maybe? And so we broached the subject with his parents, and he was referred for service, and he graduated from Burnsville High, and he was a chess champion for Metcalf, and you know, and he got what he needed, it appears, to learn and to grow and to thrive. And it's not like our work was that hard. We saw what we saw, and we're not experts, so we referred for evaluation. And actually we referred to the parents. They asked for the evaluation, and I suspect that's happening every day where you are, that we're seeing things and talking to parents. And
I think there should be a clearinghouse to share, like all the people that stop you in the grocery store or at the park, and their kids are now 18 and they're like, I still remember our group. It was so amazing and you saved me, right? Like to me, that's the best evidence.
And
I
there are
still have-
electronic ways we can do that we didn't have before.
A mom, she works in the district, but she still says to me, my best friends are still the moms I met in ECFE when my kids were little. And so it's nice to have somebody like that.
mm-hmm.
And we probably all had the experience of when people say, what do you do? And you say, I work at ECFE, and they're like, lifesaver. You know, I would love to have some way of more, you know, less anecdotally, more systematically capturing that, how in those parents that carried forward, and it affected, I'm sure, how they parented and engaged with schools and thought about school systems and that. So I would love to see that somehow.
And a number of our program associates are people who were ECFE parents and decided they wanted to keep doing this. I mean, one of them she doesn't have a license anymore, but she had a special ed license at one point. And so she's just our program associate. They're invaluable. They're paying attention to the same kind of things we are. And we're lucky to have them, that they came to ECFE because it had been such a valuable thing for them.
So my recommendation would be, whenever these folks from MDE get hired, if there is any kind of open forum or whatever where they're and even if there isn't, like, we can advocate for it, right, is to ask that question. You know, what is the Department of Education, especially now, thank you very much for creating these, you know, legislature for creating these positions. This is badly needed. And one of the things we definitely need is evidence of the work that we're doing, both good and bad, right? Because we don't want it slanted like, well, of course we're only doing great stuff, right? And because people will blow holes in that too, right? And so, but is to ask that question, you know, will the Department of Education put resources into collecting data about the long-term effectiveness of ECFE for whatever, right? For children's development, for children's academic achievement, for parent engagement, whatever your outcome variable is. But really, I would strongly encourage all of you, any opportunity you have to advocate, ask that question. Because it isn't being done, or it hasn't been done, and it's oftentimes a lack of resources. And but it can be done, and it is being done in other dimensions of public education. So yes. Anyway, all right. Anything else? I think we're close to, yeah, we're like 1 minute over one. I don't want to hold you. Anything else for the good of the group as we close? For not having anything to talk about, Julie's observation about her master contract. See, this group always has stuff. Anything else anybody want to contribute before we close down for the day?
I don't have a contribution. I just need, Susan, you had talked about sharing that job opening on a listserv. If you could, after everyone goes, if you could just give me an idea how I should do that.
Yeah, just perfect connections that you, I mean, I'll send you, it's just to the listserv, Nancy, or you can send it directly to me and I'll forward it, but yeah. All right, I added the save the date.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everybody. See you next week. Well, I won't be here, but next week you can meet. Bye.